is Urša Opara Krašovec. Urša Opara Krašovec is an assistant professor in the field of chemistry at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering at the University of Ljubljana. And Urša has become a member of ENRIO in 2014 already as a member of the Commission for Women in Science in Slovenia. And she has now been also elected as one of ENRIO's first vice presidents. And yeah, she was the first ENRIO member of Slovenia, and I think it can be said that you are, in a way, one of the grassroots fighters in the field in your country, because Urša will talk now about Slovenia's road towards the establishment of the first National Research Integrity Office in her country, and what ENRIO's role was in this development. And yeah, the title of the talk is Benefits of ENRIO Membership for Countries with No Official Research Integrity Office Yet.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Hjördis, for such a nice introduction. I would also like to ask Kali if I can share my slides. Yeah, I think I can do it.
Yes, you indeed can.
Yeah. Yeah. So as Hjördis said, I will I came at the end. So as Hjördis said, the title of my talk is to speak about the benefits that we gain through the ENRIO membership as a country having no official research integrity office. As you can guess from the title, we are the country that we do not have a research integrity office on the national level. But I would like to show you today where we were back in 2014, just before we joined the ENRIO network, and the progress we made up to now. So very shortly, if we go back to 2014, the fact is that Slovenia did not have a national, neither a visible institutional structure for research integrity office, but it was much more worse, I could say, which I would like to illustrate to you by reading just some parts of the letter that that was my first call for advice, for help, how to move the system. And I sent it on 21st of March, back in 2014. It was an email to Krista Varantola, that was the president of TINC at that time. And I sent it just shortly after attending a webinar. It was not a webinar, actually, it was an ethics day organized by TINC, but it was possible to follow it online. The letter was it is very emotional, and it was full of empathy, or full of really, how to say, motivation to make a change, and asking for advice on it. It started like that. I have started to really raise my voice in Slovenia last autumn 2013. We are in the Stone Age. We are not even able to recognize internationally well-announced practices, well-announced best practices. On the opposite, I think I see some parts are missing here. On the opposite, on the opposite, they are being promoted. I have started to look what is going on around the world, what is going on around in Europe, and I just have realized that we in Slovenia are not even present in the discussion at international level. I said something about how I engaged myself to start promoting internationally recognized good practices, which I found in some different documents, and that I became a member of the Commission for Women in Science, which is a nice panel, or let us say, interested to step in this subject as well. I continue, like, not me alone, together with my colleagues and quite a lot of supporters. We really decide to make a move, because I am just scared, and we are scared, that if we continue to ignore these problems we are facing, it's going to be even much worse for Slovenia. So my question to Krista was, I would like to ask you for an advice. which would be the best way or the most important way to make a change. I was really, I could say, very positively surprised because Krista replied to me already the next day, advising me on where could I find the most relevant documents, but also suggested to me to attend an ENRIO meeting and explain the Slovenian situation there, and as well as to invite some representatives from different national research integrity organizations to talk at the seminar we were planning to do. So I really followed her advice and her suggestions. So the suggestions were then later on discussed within the Commission for Women in Science, and we very shortly after that went into the action. So already on September 19 in 2014, the Commission organized an international conference entitled Ethical Accountability and Gender Perspective, New Relations in Science, which took place which took place at the Slovenian Academy of Science and Arts. So we did that intentionally to get more stakeholders becoming, in a way, our supporters to really make a change in Slovenia. And in this conference, I could say that research misconduct and unacceptable practices were openly presented and discussed. There were two members of ENRIO present at this, accepted the invitation to join us at the conference. It was, there was Nicole Fogger, at that time the chair of the ENRIO group, and Krista Varantola, that was also the member, and it's now leading the ENRIO. So we were really, it was a great response. So we got many attendees coming and listening to us, and even the minister was present at this event to underline research integrity as one of the most important topics in Slovene strategic documents, which is called the Resolution on Research and Innovation Strategy of Slovenia. It was written back in 2011, and already this legislation, this document, this resolution acknowledged the need to adopt a national code of conduct and to build a national structure for research integrity. But also the responsibilities and the deadlines for each proposed actions were very clearly identified. The deadline passed and the implementation has been delayed. But I think that we tried to put the things back on track. So a very important outcome of this conference was also the proposed recommendation on the steps that need to be done to safeguard research integrity in Slovenia, as well as the translation of an important, internationally important document to Slovene language, that is a Singapore statement, which was then later on widely disseminated with the help of the Ministry of Education, Science and Sport to the Slovene Academic Society. So, and very soon after this event took place, as here this already mentioned, we became a member of ENRIO network, and since then I am a representative at the ENRIO of the Slovenia. So I could say that we really learned a lot from the ENRIO members that already had national structures in place, as they were always, really always open to share their knowledge and experiences, good and bad practices with us. This was really of paramount importance at the time when the recommendation for the national research body had been drafted, because all of a sudden we got this will present on the national level. For example, in April 2016, Slovenia hosted an ENRIO meeting exactly from that reason, to obtain the input of ENRIO's members on the establishment of a national research integrity offices. So it took 2 years later that we came up also on the national level on the recommendations for the National Research Integrity Body that were well agreed between very different stakeholders. And they constitute a chapter in the new law on research integrity and innovation, which unfortunately still did not go into force, but it's progressing. I just try, okay. So more information on the steps that have been made in Slovenia on this subject, how the recommendations were formed and how they ended up to the chapter you can find in the country report at the ENRIO webpage. I think that the clear progress is now made in Slovenia, also on institutional level, as in last few years, almost all research institutions have built a structure or are in the process to establish it. Just recently, on top of the institutional research integrity offices, quite some institutions are building or thinking to build a network of ombudspersons. So furthermore, being a member of ENRIO, we got the direct access to the progress or actions taken on the European level and worldwide. As for example, we are also able to actively contribute to the current European Research Code of Conduct that was prepared by ALEA, as well as being able to distribute the up-to-date information to the Slovenian academic society. For example, back in 2019, we distributed the recommendations for the investigation of research misconduct drafted by ENRIO, which were quite well accepted by some research institutions, organizations in Slovenia. The Commission for Women in Science, that is now called the Commission for Equal Opportunities, it's securing equal rights for women and men in science for more than 20 years. The alliance with ENRIO undoubtedly contributed not only in raising the awareness of the importance of the research integrity, as I said before, but really strengthen our voice and put the research integrity higher on the national political agenda. So it empowered Commission for Women in Science on the national level, and since then its voice could not be easily neglected by any decision makers when the research integrity is discussed. So if I conclude here, I hope I have convinced you that enormous progress has been made in Slovenia. The research community in Slovenia has become more sensitive, aware that bad and what a good research practice means, which was not the case back in 2014, and how important it is to undertake research ethically and with integrity, producing reliable, trustworthy, and accessible results. Also, the decision makers could not ignore this wave. In fact, the decision maker as well have learned the research integrity vocabulary. To ask, if you are asking yourself why you would or should join ENRIO, I think one of the reasons is just what Dorian said before me. It's quite important. It's a very nice community sharing the same values as already here this said. And whenever you have a question, you can ask for advice, and you will get a relevant answer on a different issues, and some of them are stated here. So whenever looking for the best way to be informed what is going on, good and bad practices on individual, institutional, national level or worldwide, how to handle, to get in practical information, how to handle the case, solve the case, get support speaker whenever organizing an event, get empowered or maybe just inspired. And if you really like, in order to be able to choose the best or the most appropriate way, I would suggest you to to contact the ENRIO as I did back in 2014, writing to Krista. So I will end here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Urša. This was really very interesting and a very unique perspective from you. And thank you also for sharing this letter that you wrote in 2013. That's very powerful, and I'm actually sure many people can relate to what you were writing, especially if there is no structure yet. And I see that we don't have any questions, and maybe for time reasons, because we have some delay here, we should move on to the next talk. But thank you so much, Urša. This was really very interesting. And I want to say this is some info that you would usually get at the meetings of ENRIO, but you can't read in the news about it, right? So thank you.